What I am showing you here is this is a list of all the MP3s, the audio files that I had accumulated over my study period. What I want to point to, though, is I did not create this idea of the audio flashcards. When I attended the study group for my CPP, I attended it at McDonald's University. McDonald's used to have what they called Hamburger University in Oak Brook, Illinois. And at the time, and he still is the boss, the director of worldwide security, his name is Dennis Queilis. He's a fantastic guy. He's very sharp. He's been in charge of security for McDonald's since I met him, and I met him in 2010 at McDonald's Hamburger University. And in fact, he hosted the study group for As Is that year, and he attended many of the study group meetings just to share his experience and to kind of coach folks and offer advice on how you could get ready for the CPP exam. And I remember one day we were sitting around talking about the exam, folks who had taken the exam and failed it. And they were talking about folks like me who may have been in their 50s or 60s, who had been out of school for a while, and what was needed to help them prepare for and study for this exam. And Dennis, who already possessed the CPP, told me that years earlier, when he was prepping for his CPP, what he did was he took a cassette player, recorder, and he recorded sections of the books that you had to read at the time that were used for the questions on the CPP exam. And after he recorded these sections that he read, he recorded him reading these sections out loud. Then he would take these cassette tapes and pop them into the cassette player that we used to have in our vehicles back in the day. And he would listen to his cassettes whenever he was in the car, commuting or traveling or whatever. And this was a method that helped him. So I decided to, well, if it worked for him, he's a smart guy, he's a successful guy, let me use that method and then tweak it to make it work for me. And what I did was I used my iPhone and I used my laptop. And what you see here is a list of files that I created. And as you can see, if you look to the right, the third column there shows the number of minutes for each of these files. And some of them were really, really long. So the fact that I spent this much time reading and then recording these flashcards and then listening to them over and over and over helped to bolster my retention. Now here is my recommended study method for folks taking the state of Illinois Detective and Security Contractor exam. Set aside time to read your books. The books that you have to read are the 2 security books for the security contractor license or the detective book for the detective license. You have to read these books because even though there are only 75 questions on the exam and there are only 40 that will come from the security books or the detective books, the books are huge. They contain multiple chapters, multiple keywords, multiple definitions, multiple historical terms and concepts and operations and definitions. And the only way to be familiar with these terms, this content, is to read the books. You need to have enough time to read the books. It will be difficult to cram and study for 2 weeks or read for 2 weeks just to be ready for the exam. You also need to turn your weak areas into strong areas. And the way to do that is you have to identify your weak areas. Take the practice questions repeatedly, but not exclusively. Don't just rely on the practice questions that I have created for you. You have to take them, but you cannot just rely on that. You have to combine that with the reading and with some other study methods to have the best chance to pass. Overlapping your study methods aids in your retention. Whether you are reading and listening and writing, or writing, listening, and reading, but the more you do in behalf of study, the more you will retain and be ready for on exam day. Create flashcards of your weak areas. You're going to have some weak areas because the goal of this test, the way to pass this test, is you have to be familiar with the sources. Prior experience and expertise in security or investigations will not help you on this test. You have to be familiar with the sources because that's what you will be tested on. Some of the source material is 20 years old, is obsolete, is outdated, and you may have known about it 20 years ago and forgotten it. In order to get it back in your mind, you have to read the books. Keep your flashcards with you to practice them often. Study regularly every day rather than one day a week for 3 or 4 hours. Don't study just on Sunday or every Wednesday. Do something every day. Link your study to another daily habit, ritual, activity, etc. Gradually increase your study time as exam day gets closer. Exam day, you'll have 90 minutes to read, comprehend, and select the best answer for each of the 75 questions. That means you'll have to average 65 questions for each one, 65 seconds. You'll have to average a 65-second interval for each of the 75 questions in order to have enough time to get all the questions answered. Remember, every question and answer matters, and aspire for a perfect score on all of your exams and quizzes. Don't focus on trying to get a C score or a 70. You want to get 100% on every test and practice quiz that you take, including exam day.